Hey, everybody, and welcome to Just Another Effing Podcast. I am your host, the favorite son from the Commonwealth, the promo style master, the JFB James from Boston.
And it's me, your Canadian hero, Canada Dry.
That gets me every time. I love that. Put a little music into it, get a little
change it up every once in a while. Just,
All right, so this is episode number 15. We don't need no satisfactions. That's right. We're going to talk about our top 5 factions of all time. But before we do, little news. So A&E has been doing they've been doing a run of these biographies on wrestlers, Booker T, Macho Man, Ultimate Warrior. The one that we kind of bonded over has always been Bret, our favorite Canadian wrestlers, and Bret Hart happens to be one of them. So we watched. We just both got finished watching last week's Bret Hart episode, and I have to say, number one, I'm very surprised that he's that good of a cartoon artist. I had no idea.
Yeah,
no idea, but. I thought A&E did a really good job. I thought they were going to kind of whitewash the Montreal screw job and, kind of circumvent around it so they didn't have to really talk about the controversy. But that and the relationship with Shawn Michaels, they hit it pretty hard.
Yeah, one of my favorite things, that intro was so great.
Yeah.
Sitting here drawing and I have to say, I remember hearing something about a bear before, but I didn't know that he lived underneath the stairs. And just hearing about eating the fudgicles and getting on his feet, and the bear would lick his feet clean, and
he'd tell his mom, "I took a bath." Yeah, I took a bath. The bear took a bath.
The bear, I was like, "That's so cool!" Like having a pet bear. That's
Stu. I mean, the stories about Stu Hart are legendary. Him smoking while he's cooking, flipping cat turds with the spatula, and then using the spatula again to flip food. It doesn't really surprise me that Stu Hart had a pet bear living under the deck.
I think they had like 10 or 11 cats living. I don't know.
Yeah, one cat for each kid that he had. But yeah,
it must have been. I have to say, it must have been such a crazy or such an amazing childhood to grow up in the Hart.
In there. Yeah, I mean they talked about Stu and how Stu and Helen met, and they talked about the relationship with him and Owen. Obviously, Owen being much younger than Bret, he was the last child to be born. Episode 10, an Ode to Owen. If you want to download and listen to it, we talked pretty deeply about the connections between Bret and Owen. But overall, yeah. They had a lot of the brothers on. They had his ex-wife on, which I was kind of surprised, and his new wife. But yeah, I thought that was probably the best A&E one that they've done.
My only critique of the whole thing was they went pretty fast past that Owen death thing there. They didn't want to blame WWE or anything like that. They just wanted to say it happened, and the other thing is they didn't cover pretty much any of his WCW work.
No, they barely talked about it, and it's funny because the A&E biographies are produced by WWE. So I think WWE, or at least produced by Kevin Dunn. So I think that they didn't want to really kind of rehash the Owen situation, but yeah, I mean, I wish that they would have talked more about Owen and what the death did to that family, because I think that's what caused Stu to die. So,
well, they did talk about that. They said that it pretty much killed the parents.
I mean, it put Stu in the grave, which is sad. I mean, Stu lived to be very old, but still that death of his son, I think really drove home, drove him to an early grave. So, But yeah, A&E has done a really good job. But the Bret Hart one was probably my favorite so far.
The Bret Hart's my favorite. I really like the Roddy Piper one as well.
Yeah, the Roddy Piper one was really good.
I think they butchered Macho. Like the Macho Man one was done well, but they butchered him with all the Hogan stuff in there.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was nice to see Bruce Pritchard talking about the Montreal screw job, and then Vince actually saying, I'm the one who made the decision. I'm the one who said, let's do it this way. So I don't know if that's a new angle recently. I don't remember the last thing I heard about the Montreal screw job other than Bret was in on it. And that's what Bruce Pritchard said on his podcast. But it was nice to hear Vince take credit for it. But you don't blame him. You don't want the belt going to your rival and being dumped in the trash like Medusa did when she jumped ship from WWF and went to WCW and dropped the women's title in the trash can on Monday night on Monday Nitro.
Yeah, the thing about that was though just the Bret wanted to stay all along, and Vince offered him all this money, and then he couldn't pay him, and it's like buyer's remorse, and then I don't know.
Yeah,
it was a good show, and it's good to see him being a family man now and kind of taking that spot that Stu Hart had and having all the kids over to his house. It's
he's got a buttload of grandkids too. Holy cow!
Let me
family is like rabbits.
His son Blade Hart. Wouldn't that be a cool wrestling name?
That is a damn cool wrestling name. Blade Hart is awesome.
You could have like blades coming out of a heart or something.
Would be so like the bladed barbed wire, razor wire. Oh, that would be awesome. All right, so let's get to the meat of our episode. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to give you an auditory eargasm as we talk about the top factions in all world pro wrestling. Canada Dry, I believe you won the coin toss backstage. If you want to go first with your number 5.
My number 5, I'm going to go with D-Generation X.
Good one.
They really brought out the Attitude Era, and really, they really took it to WCW and really cemented the faction warfares in wrestling.
Yeah, absolutely. DX was a close to getting on my top 5. So my top 5, my number 5, and I want to preface this by saying that I had a criteria when it came to selecting my factions. They had to be around for longer than a year, and they had to have some kind of impact in the promotion and so on. So my number 5 is Los Ingobernables from CMLL. Not one faction, I believe, has ever been as dominant as they were in Mexico. They were formed by La Sombra, who's Andrade right now, or Andrade El Idolo, La Mascara, and Rush. Naito came in 2015 and then left and formed Los Ingobernables de Japan. He did that with Bushi and Sanada and Takahashi and Tagagi. And then Rush and Mascara left CMLL and went to AAA. So they actually left one big Mexican promotion, went to another, and created, I'm trying to remember, La Facción Ingobernables, the ungovernable faction. And then they had Bastilla 666, Conan, L.A. Park, Kenny King, Dragon Lee, and even at one time, Killer Cross. That is my number 5, Los Ingobernables. They expanded all over the world. They almost tried to do it in WWE with Andrade and, trying to bring in kind of that tranquilo.
Okay. So who do you think made a bigger impact in the wrestling world? D-Generation X or your pick?
That's kind of hard to say. I'm going to go with DX because there were more eyes on WWE than there is on CMLL or AAA. In terms of television. Now, I've been to Mexico before, and I've watched wrestling on television, and sometimes it's very confusing when your announcers are yelling in Spanish, but it's a universal language.
Do people get thrown through the English announce table?
They get through the English announce desk. Yes, I think so. But I think DX had a lot more eyes, especially at that time. I mean, wrestling was just so hot, between WCW and WWE at that time.
Between Stone Cold and D-Generation X, that really helped them win the war.
Yeah. Well, even D-Generation X versus the Hart Foundation was.
Well, they weren't quite DX yet.
Yeah, that's true. It was just Hunter and Triple H, or Triple H and Shawn Michaels at that time. But that was kind of the nexus. There was kind of the birth of DX at that point. So, what is your number 4?
We can talk about this. The Four Horsemen.
Oh, the Four Horsemen! Give us your take on the Four Horsemen.
Oh man, they're just so good with Flair. Like, my only complaint is the rotating door on the members. It would be better if they would have kept the same members throughout the whole lifespan. But such an iconic group, and what do you think about the Four Horsemen?
Oh, I love the Four Horsemen. They are just that symbol, and that they were. I have some thoughts on the Four Horsemen I'll get to later, because I have a feeling they might be on my list.
Okay, so my favorite member of the Four Horsemen. Oh, that's a tough one. Yeah, that's.
It's hard to pick just one.
Yeah, it's hard to pick one guy in there. Yeah, I can't.
Well, I'm going to go with my number 4, and that is the Dangerous Alliance. Paul Heyman, also known as Paulie Dangerously, created the Dangerous Alliance in the AWA with our friend of the show, Adrian Adonis, the original Midnight Express, Dennis Condrey, and Randy Rose. You can listen to episode 6, Welcome to the Flower Shop, when we talk about Adrian Adonis' career with his daughter, Angie. Then he moved to WCW and formed the Dangerous Alliance with Arn Anderson, with Barbie Eaton, Larry Zbyszko, Medusa as his spy, Michael P.S. Hayes, Rick Rude, and stunning Steve Austin, a young Steve Austin before he became the bald, ass-kicking ball buster that we all grew to know and love, Mr. 316. Dangerous Alliance. My favorite, though, from the Dangerous Alliance has to be Bobby Eaton. Kind of a renegade back in those days.
With some of your picks, you're going way off the board on these picks. Like,
I know.
A lot of people know about these. Like,
I'm deep diving. I'm deep diving. The one thing that drew me when I originally watched the Dangerous Alliance was Paul Heyman had one of those cell phones, the big brick cell phone that required a bag that he didn't have, but he had the phone and he used it and bonked people in the head with it. It was brilliant. But Bobby Eaton, man, that guy was a renegade in the territory.
Yeah, I think in the history of wrestling, Bobby Eaton is way underrated.
Yes, absolutely. I totally agree with that statement. He never got the due that I think he justly deserved. But he's in the Luthez Hall of Fame. He's in the Cauliflower Club Hall of Fame. He had a brief stint in WWE, WWF, but I don't think he's ever going to get into their Hall of Fame. But if we were to do a top 10 or top 5 of the most underrated wrestlers, Bobby Eaton would be on mine, probably number 1. So, but I don't know. That might be a good show idea. What is your number 3?
My number 3 is the NWO.
The NWO, the New World Order. Good pick.
Yeah. What can you say about a group with, the only complaint about them is they were almost, you could start a whole wrestling organization based around the members in the NWO.
Yeah.
But, and their success was actually WCW's demise because they just
Yeah.
they didn't let everyone else get over,
Nope.
and they just so it was just it was a bittersweet thing with the NWO.
Yeah,
But,
it was. Who's your favorite guy from the NWO?
Oh man, my favorite guy from the NWO. I'm gonna go Macho Man.
Macho Man. Oh, that's a good one because he really was kind of a wild card when he was with the NWO. It looked like he didn't want to be there, and then he was there, and then he left, and then he came back. That's a good pick. I like that. I don't know who I would pick. I have to think about it. I have to think about that. My number 3 is the Hart Foundation. Was started as a tag team between Bret Hart and Jim the Anvil Neidhart. Eventually grew to be a faction in 1997 and consisted of basically friends and family of the Hart family. And Bret was the leader, obviously, his brother-in-law, Jim the Anvil, his other brother-in-law, Davey Boy Smith, his brother Owen, and family friend Brian Pillman. After Bret, of course, left WWE and went to WCW, and then with Owen's death, the faction broke up. But it did get reimagined a couple of times down the line with Davey Boy Smith's kid, Natalia, Tyson Kidd, Teddy Hart, who story, but I don't know how he's still alive, to be honest, but he is. And
the interesting thing is that WWE doesn't own the name anymore.
That's true. Yeah.
MLW actually owns it now.
Yep. Yeah, because Teddy Hart wrestles in MLW sometimes.
That's why Tyson Kidd and David Hart Smith at the time.
Yeah.
They had to call it the Hart Dynasty.
Yeah. Yeah. It was a great found. It really was. I mean, Bret's my favorite out of all of them. Owen would be a really, really close second. I mean, like
I flip-flop between Owen and Bret all the time.
Yeah. Owen's like right there, because and it's just they were so good as heels.
If I was going to be friends with one of them, I'd pick Owen though.
Yeah, I'd pick Bret. I mean, I was always a Bret the Hitman Hart fan, good or bad, heel or face.
You'd have more fun with Owen.
That's true. You did have more fun with Owen. That's for damn sure. Yeah,
so
that is for sure. So, what is your number 2?
The Inner Circle.
The Inner Circle. You're going new school on this one.
New school with the Inner Circle.
The Inner Circle.
I just fell in love with them. Chris Jericho's never had a faction before.
Yeah.
And obviously, I'm picking Chris Jericho as my favorite in the faction.
Yeah.
Just this last Stadium Stampede. Oh, my goodness, they killed it.
Yeah.
It doesn't appear that it's over between them and the Pinnacle. But, it's what can you say? They're awesome.
Yeah, Inner Circle, man. I would say probably my favorite is Pride and Power. I love Chris Jericho. Don't get me wrong about Chris Jericho. I could go on and on about Jericho. I am a huge Jericho-holic. I even own a shirt that says so. But it's the young guys that he's bringing up. Sammy Guevara and Pride and Powerful, and taking the job against like Orange Cassidy and against all these MJF and stuff like that.
You know who I really like actually that doesn't get enough love is Jake Hager. Jake Hager in the Inner Circle. He's just such a fun character.
I wish he would finally just go wrestling full time. Don't get me wrong, I've watched his MMA fights on Bellator, and he's a great MMA fighter. But he's just got he's got a mind for wrestling, for pro.
Okay, so question here. They're gonna have they teased Wardlow versus Jake Hager in an MMA fight.
Oh. On AEW or through Bellator?
Yeah. Oh no, on AEW. They said I challenge you. Is it going to be a shoot or is it going to be real? Or is it going to be
or work? I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be a shoot. I mean, I would hate because Hagar is going to put a hurting on him, because I've seen Hagar stretch guys out in Bellator, and I hope it's. I really honestly, I hope it's a work, but I think it's going to end up to be a shoot, because I've heard that those two guys don't like each other in real life either. So.
Well, the other thing is, I don't think Jake Hager would want to put his reputation on the line like that.
Yeah.
Especially if he's going to lose. If he's going to win, who cares, right? But
yeah. Yeah, well, he's got sponsors, and they got to worry about tickets. Hey, he lost to a pro wrestler. What is he going to do at Bellator? It kind of takes the shine off of him quite a bit. So, who is your number 2?
Well, it's your turn, isn't it?
No, it's your turn. I did my number 2. Did you do? Oh, Inner Circle is your number 2.
Yeah.
That's how am I thinking? My number 2 is the NWO, the New World Order. I can't remember any faction that went from 0 to 1,000 miles per hour like the NWO. The idea was the brainchild, of course, of Eric Bischoff, who actually got it from Japan, from New Japan Pro Wrestling. There was an invasion angle between New Japan Pro Wrestling and UWFI, and it all accumulated into this one event for the heavyweight championship. So once he had Hall and he had Nash, he figured, okay, it's time to pull the trigger. We're going to do an invasion angle. They know that these guys are from up north. The wrestling fan is a smarter fan now. They're not stupid. They're not going to be like, oh, who's Hall and Nash? I mean, they popped when they first saw them. They know who they are. The key was finding the third guy. The third guy, according to Eric Bischoff, was going to be Sting. He was going to be the third guy. And Sting said he wasn't sure about going heel. So they went to Hulk Hogan, and Hulk
Hogan wasn't sure about it either.
Hogan wasn't sure about it either. It took a lot of convincing to get him to do it. But with the leg drop heard from around the world, we thought he was coming in to save Macho Man from Hall and Nash. We didn't know who the third guy was.
Say, Bobby Heenan, he sure dropped the ball on this one. Who's he with? Of course, come on.
Heenan. That's the one and only time Bobby Heenan has ever dropped the ball. That man is sharp as a tack.
Yeah. Just why are you saying that, Bobby?
But yeah, it turned out Hogan was the third man, and the NWO was born. You had NWO New Japan. You had 2 separate brands, the black and white versus the red and black. Of course, we talked about it. As with most factions, it has to find its end piece and its end game. And unfortunately, oversaturation, I think 2/3 of the WCW roster was in the NWO.
The NWO that Bret Hart was in, that he was the leader of.
Yeah.
If they hadn't got injured,
that
would have been amazing.
Yep.
Because just like they said, we're not going to have any jobbers in this one.
Yeah.
But unfortunately.
Well, and the other problem too was the backstage politics. Hall and Nash with the Clique. They decided what was going to happen, who was going to get booked. They lost. I mean, how many mid-card guys like Jericho, Malenko that jumped ship and went to WWE instead of staying at WCW because of the NWO and because of Hall?
Talking about the NWO.
Yeah.
Did you know that Chris Jericho was offered a spot in the NWO?
I did not know that.
So Chris Jericho was offered a spot in the NWO, and he declined.
He really? Wow.
Do you remember when Big Show was coming in and helping Chris Jericho win?
Yeah.
And so that was supposed to be the setup to Chris Jericho joining the NWO. The NWO, and he said, "I don't want to do it because I'm just going to be another guy."
Yeah.
So
it'd be just another mid card with a black and white shirt.
Yeah, he did. He's like, I'm getting all this attention right now with my promos, so it doesn't make any sense for me to be part of that.
Oh, his promos were excellent, and of course, WWE tried to reincarnate the NWO, and which was an utter failure. But the influence of the NWO, and the reason why they're my number 2, is they were the blueprint for factions afterwards. And one in particular, which didn't make my list but should have, was Bullet Club. Because if you look at Bullet Club, they are essentially a blueprint of the NWO. The hand signals, the too sweet, the ganging up on everybody. I mean, there would be no Bullet Club if it wasn't for NWO, and even DX for that matter.
Yeah, DX is a total ripoff of NWO.
Oh yeah,
without NWO, there's no DX.
Absolutely, DX was WWE's answer to the NWO.
Yeah,
but some could say DX did it a little bit better. They kept their numbers small and consistent. There wasn't like, hey, this guy's going to be part of DX. I mean, they were the same members for a real long time. With Shawn Michaels leaving, of course, it kind of changed a little bit, but no, I totally agree. I think DX did it better than NWO did, for sure. So what is your numero uno?
Let's see if you can guess.
Is it the Hart Foundation?
The Hart Foundation.
The Hart Foundation, baby.
To be honest with you, I wasn't in love with any faction until the Hart Foundation came along, and just that Canada versus US angle was so good. Having them being just the greatness of having them being bad guys in one episode and then they're good guys to a whole other episode because they're in Canada. Oh man, Canada really got behind them here.
Oh yeah. I remember I was in the States and was watching, and they were booing the hell out of them. I was in Toronto, and they were up in Toronto the next week, and you would think it was night and day.
So as an American, were you booing them or cheering them?
I was cheering them. Are you kidding me? I had my Calgary Hitman jersey on, baby.
You're a Canadian at heart.
I am a Canadian at heart. I have a fondness for the Great White North. Degrassi Junior High is what got me involved with Canada, baby.
Degrassi Junior High.
Degrassi Junior High in the 80s, man. I'm telling you.
Oh man, that's a horrible show.
I saw that and I was like, I wonder where this is made. And I'm like, because it was on my Boston station, and my dad's like, oh, I think that's a Canadian show. And I'm like, are you kidding me? And then I met this guy who was from Canada. He's like, oh yeah, Degrassi, that's totally Canada, eh? I said, oh, that's sweet. And that began my love affair with Canada, hockey and Degrassi.
But even Drake is from the new Degrassi.
Yeah, he's from it's funny. I have Degrassi on DVD, junior high school, and then I think the first season of one of the newer ones. But yeah, I mean, I'm a huge Degrassi nerd.
But getting back to the Hart Foundation, just watching this Brian Pillman thing, I didn't know how badly he was injured at that point. I didn't know he was hooking himself up, and because he looked fine on TV. Wow, it's like
it was really weird because I didn't know how bad he was hurt either until I watched that Dark Side of the Ring, and it made sense because I always wondered, why did we not see Pillman wrestle that much, and that was the reason why he was injured.
But he still did some wrestling and he looked fine.
Yeah, it was squash matches though. I don't recall him being in a really long or exaggerated
gold dust match for remember, for Sunny.
Yeah,
not Sunny, for
Marlena.
Yeah,
I do remember that. Of course, I always remember Brian Pillman for his having him pulling a gun on Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Yeah, I don't know what they were thinking with that one.
It was all part of the loose cannon persona, man. That was Pillman. Pillman wanted to be the loose cannon.
The Hart Foundation, to me, they're the greatest faction of all time. I don't care.
Yeah. My number one I will see your Hart Foundation faction, and I will raise you up. Woo! That is right. The Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse. You couldn't have an NWO, a Bullet Club, Los Ingobernables, Hart Foundation. You couldn't have any of these guys if it wasn't for the Four Horsemen.
Yeah, they were really the first faction in wrestling.
They were the first heel faction, yeah.
Well, was there a faction before them?
There was, so they started off as the Minnesota Wrecking Crew. So it was Flair and it was Gene and Arn Anderson in the AWA days. And then Gene left, but they were fighting another faction. I can't remember the name of the faction, but there was a face faction that they were going against constantly in AWA. When they moved to NWA, when Flair won the belt for the NWA championship, the 10 pounds of gold, baby, he wanted to have bodyguards. He wanted to have somebody to make sure he kept the belt. And that's how the Four Horsemen started. I forget who
it was, but they became the Four Horsemen in a promo. Someone just said, "We're the Four Horsemen," and they went.
Yeah, you haven't seen this many people, or you haven't seen this much havoc wrecked by this few people since the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse.
That's what they said. Yeah,
that was Arn Anderson, baby. That was Arn, and it stopped.
Arn is just, he's got a great mind for creativity and.
Oh yeah. Yeah, have you ever listened to his podcast?
I heard him on Jericho's podcast, so
he's listened to his podcast. Some of the stories he tells, because when I was growing up and I see these guys on TV, I didn't realize that they were booking at the same time. And Ole obviously and Arn, Kevin Sullivan. I mean, they were producing, they were writing, they were booking. Dusty Rhodes obviously booked most of the NWA stuff for the territories out in that area, but you just didn't know. And now I think this is what's so great about having a podcast is that these guys can now give us a verbal history of what they've done for the business other than putting on a pair of tights and boots and putting their bodies on the line every day. They were booking and they were writing storylines and they were doing this and they were doing that, like to me, that's the great part about having a podcast, I get Eric Bischoff and we knew he was president of WCW, but I didn't realize how much power Arn Anderson really had until I started listening to his podcast. Same with Bruce Pritchard. I always knew Bruce Pritchard's brother Love. I had no idea he was executive. Until
he was one of Vince's right-hand men.
Yeah, he is now too. He's back with WWE.
So we got all our factions out.
Well, I'm not done with talking about my faction, though. I'm not done talking about the Four Horsemen.
Okay. As soon as you're done, let me know because I have something I want to say.
Okay. So anyway, the original lineup of the Four Horsemen was Flair, Ole, Arn Anderson, and the newcomer Tully Blanchard. They went and terrorized the NWA territories, Mid-South, Mid-Atlantic, you name it, they did it. The people that were their enemies is a who's who of some of the greatest wrestlers of all time. We're talking about, guys like Dusty Rhodes, who they broke his leg in a steel cage match. Magnum TA, the original Rock and Roll Express, the Road Warriors. J.J. Dillon was their manager. I remember J.J. Dillon always in that weird workout tracksuit that zipped up the front, and while all the guys are wearing suits and nice Rolex watches, the people, so Tully and Arn, obviously they left WCW and went to WWE, became the Brainbusters, which is one of my favorite tag teams of all time.
When they beat Demolition, me and my friend, we didn't think they were going to win that day. It was a 2 out of 3 falls on Saturday Night Main Event, and we were just jumping up and down because we didn't think they were going to win, and we were just like, yeah.
But you look at, they replaced members all the time. Luger was there, Barry Windham was there, Sting was Four Horsemen at one time, Brian Pillman, Chris Benoit, Steve Mongo McMichaels, who I don't know if you know is suffering from MS, pretty bad. They're not giving him a lot of time. So Mongo, if you're out there listening or somebody's listening that knows Mongo, I didn't like you as a football player because you played for Chicago and I'm a Patriots fan, but damn, I loved you as a Four Horseman, man. With your ponytail and your big stockiness and your number on your tights. He was awesome. But the lasting legacy is one of the importance. They weren't the original heel stable. There was other heel stables before them. But they were the best damn heel stable to grace the square circle, often copied, never duplicated.
So we can't go talk about the Four Horsemen without talking about the Pinnacle, because I believe the Pinnacle is based on them, right?
Yeah. They have they're a heel. Yeah, you can't bring up the Pinnacle or any heel stable without really talking about.
Well, it seemed like they were going to be the new Four Horsemen, but they went and became the Pinnacle.
Yeah. Yeah, it looked like with Tully Blanchard and with Tully Blanchard,
and they were teasing with the titles there and whatnot.
Yeah, Then they walked in with the NWA tag team belts.
Yeah, so they were teasing that, and Arn came out and kind of looked, and so
before.
Yeah, so I guess I don't know. Maybe they might change into the fourth. I don't think so now. I think they're just going to go with the Pinnacle and just kind of become the new version of them, I guess.
They if I had to pick, I would say that the Pinnacle is probably going to be the closest we'll ever get. Evolution was basically the Four Horsemen. Instead of Flair being the leader, obviously it was Triple H. But the Pinnacle, man, Dash and Wilder remind me of Ole and Arn Anderson and Arn and Tully.
And MJF is like a Flair.
Yeah, very charismatic. Very man, MJF.
We got a few minutes left.
Who
are some of the worst factions?
Oh, geez. What do you want? The oddities?
What about the 4-man band?
Oh, God.
But it's amazing, they got some world champions out of there now.
You do, absolutely. Yeah, you have Drew McIntyre was in there.
Something I didn't include in my 5, but I honorable mention is the Nexus.
Yo, the Nexus.
If the Nexus wouldn't have disbanded, they had a hell of a run at the beginning there. It was such a great angle, but they got super Cena'd, and if they hadn't got super Cena'd,
they got buried.
If they wouldn't have lost at SummerSlam, like Jericho was saying, and even Edge was saying that they Nexus need to go over, and they didn't.
Well, again, these are guys. The guys from Nexus were not in the WWE system before they start NXT. Bryan Danielson obviously came from Dragon Gate. Wade Barrett came from Progress. I think the only one that had any lineage was Bray Wyatt. Husky Harris at the time.
Yeah, but he was a part of that new sort of.
Yeah, but he was not in the system, but he had that. He's Mike Rotunda's son. And if you're an '80s wrestling fan, you know who Mike Rotunda is because he tag teamed with Barry Windham and spent that entire summer and taking on the Iron Sheik and Nikolai Volkov.
You have any honorable mentions?
Bullet Club would be one. Would definitely be one. Aces and Eights from Impact TNA.
They were going on the same time as Nexus, so
they were on the same time as Nexus. They were also dealing with the fact that they aped Sons of Anarchy pretty bad. But I tuned in because I wanted to know who the leader was, and I ignored dirt sheets. I wouldn't even go online because I enjoyed watching. I enjoyed Taz being the heel commentator and as a member of the Aces and Eights. And then when it was revealed that was Bully Ray, I was like, well, it kind of makes sense because Brother Devon is there. But they had some decent young guys. Eric Bischoff's kid was in was in Aces and Eights, and a couple other young, talented guys. But yeah, I mean, God, like I said, I could have done a top 50. Chaos is another one.
Some of the worst ones. Job Squad.
Oh, Job Squad.
I actually love that gimmick. Pin me, pay me. Al Snow, pin me.
Al Snow, man. Al Snow, underrated.
I don't even know who was in the Job Squad. It was Al Snow, and I don't even know who else was in it.
I don't remember. Yeah, I don't remember. Raven's Flock. ECW was good.
I said Raven's Flock was great.
Yeah, except for WCW. I did not like the Raven's Flock in WCW.
Wait,
ECW, they were awesome.
So prior to the WCW or after?
They were ECW first and then WCW.
Okay, so was it the same members or no?
Kind of. There was one or two that were in Raven's Flock in WCW from ECW.
I didn't know them in ECW. I only know them from WCW, and I thought it was a great faction.
Yeah. The Blue World Order. I love that. Would have been one of my honorable mentions.
Yeah. With
the Blue Meanie. But there's one other one that I just did not like. That I don't remember.
Los Boricuas.
Oh yes,
remember that guy that was covered in fur?
Yes.
I don't know who he was. He just covered
it was absolutely horrible. Oh God, that was part of the Gang Wars when you had the.
What was the biker one? DOA.
Yeah, DOA, Dead on Arrival. Yeah, with the Harris brothers, who again did not know, but they were booking. They were head writers for WWE while they were wrestling. They were one of the big writing team, and they wrote and produced a lot of TNA stuff early on. They live in Tennessee. They live not that far away from me. The Harris brothers. I've seen them around, but yeah. So those are our top 5 factions. We had a little crossing the streams here and there.
Yeah.
But for the most part, it was I dug deep. I didn't want to just do newer stuff
because that way we're able to inform people. We're able to give people the factions that they love and know.
Yeah, obviously.
And then they're able to who are these guys, right? So it's good.
Dangerous Alliance, go YouTube the hell out of them. They are amazing.
What was the other one you said that people might not know of?
Oh, my Los Ingobernables, and then there was the Dangerous Alliance, Hot Foundation, NWO. So Dangerous Alliance and Los Ingobernables were probably
those are the two that people might want to look up because everyone else is kind of household names, right?
Yeah. So in case you're wondering, yes, we have a Pro Wrestling Tees store, and yes, you can find us on Pro Wrestling Tees. You can even get this shirt, baby.
You can't see it here on the audio version, but it's big and it's beautiful. It's the flipping the bird skeleton fingers. Wow. I'm still waiting for mine to arrive. I'm super excited. I actually have 2. My sister bought me one because she didn't want it, but she wanted to support me. So
that's nice.
I'll have 2 of these shirts. And
go to our Pro Wrestling Tees at prowrestlingtees.com/effing wrestling. You can find us on Facebook. You can find us on Twitter. You can find us on Instagram. You can find us on Twitch, maybe someday. Patreon.
Maybe someday. Not right now, but maybe someday.
Maybe someday. But go to our Pro Wrestling Tee store. You can find us on Spotify and Apple as well, where our podcast can be heard. Also on other platforms as well. But on that note, did Hulk Hogan ever really get back to you?
Hulk Hogan, he's dodging me. He didn't get back to me. So that means I win by forfeit. Canada Dry 1. I mean, Canada Dry 2.
2.
Hulk Hogan 0. So I'll give that a ding, 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 ding. I'll win again, baby.